you're going to get a pretty blunt approach. You know me, people know me. And some of the best conversations I have with companies are, you're not ready yet. I can introduce you to whoever you want, but I'm telling you, you're not ready yet. Or companies.
Welcome back to the Spotlight Podcast. I'm really excited to be sitting down with one of my colleagues and a good friend of mine, Mr. Heath Murray. And Heath, welcome to the show.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to Kokomo.
Yeah.
Too. You had a decent drive down here, you said?
Yeah, it was easy.
Smooth
35 minutes or so ish. Yeah.
Smooth sailing. And
Yeah.
you got some really exciting meetings tonight. So
Yeah.
we right after this podcast, we're actually going to go talk to the Greater Kokomo Economic Development Alliance and just share some ideas on really sort of your background and your expertise. So I'm really excited for that because I'm certain that it's going to be something that's valuable to just our mission now at the SBDC, which is economic development through the support of small business. And that really kind of leads to my first question. Well, let's just start here. I know you obviously,
Yeah.
but for those that are listening in, just give sort of a 30,000-foot view of who you are, what you've done, and what you're doing now.
Yeah. So Heath Murray, I'm born and raised in southern Indiana, southwest Indiana, South Central, whatever. Greene County area. Just I tell people 40 minutes south of Terre Haute.
Over yonder.
Yeah, over yonder. 45 minutes west of Bloomington, coal mining country.
Yeah.
We have more than one stoplight. Linton, about 8 stoplights, 7 stoplights now. So family, born and raised there. Everyone's still there except me. And after high school, got into law enforcement.
Yeah.
Was a police officer there, and then went to Indianapolis Metro and did a total of about 8.5 years in law enforcement. During that time, I put myself through college and got my undergrad in information systems security, which is now known as cyber.
Mm-hmm.
It changes all the time, and after I left there, I went on my sabbatical. I joke. I went down to South Carolina and bartended and tried to surf for about a year.
Yeah.
I grew my hair out. I never got the college experience. So I tell people that was it. No responsibility. But it was awesome. It was a great time. I learned all kinds of stuff, working the night scene. Loved it. Learned a ton of stuff as law enforcement. I was 20 when I started in law enforcement. Actually had to delay my academy because I wasn't old enough to go into it. So I learned all that, real life stuff. And then I kind of learned the stuff about the bartender scene. It was cool. How much they actually interchange, right? And then I figured after about a year of that I better grow up. And what does a former police officer do with a cyber degree? I had a friend say, hey, we are looking for a cyber position for NSWC Crane, and started out there as a cybersecurity specialist 1. It was fantastic. I was like, you guys are I get to work Monday through Friday and kind of set my own hours and work on computers all day, and no one's going to spit on me or try to stab me or shoot me. This is great. Like, everyone's complaining, like, this and that. And I'm like, I don't know about you guys. I'm really happy right now. And then got picked up to run a subcontract to General Dynamics for what they call the base-wide IT contract over at Crane by my friend and mentor, Greg Sapp, and really got into the contracting, the marketing, the recruiting, all this type of stuff that goes with building a business inside the walls of the Department of Defense. We had a fantastic budget. I'm kidding. It was zero budget. And we were growing. I was a senior network engineer, as well as growing this cyber department that was brand new. So we were learning a lot, and that's where I got my crash course in DoD 101.
Very cool.
And during that time, I went back to Penn State for my master's and ended up finishing my research and building the Midwest defense ecosystem, and then got into the defense innovation space. Really as an entrepreneur, I'm not one to go start 8 businesses and sell them. I like solving problems, and the DoD has plenty of those type of problems to solve and improve upon. Yeah.
Love it, man. Just for my own curiosity, how much was being involved in law enforcement? Like, was there overlap? Was being in law enforcement before you went and started surfing and working with people like, at the bar, and then now in contracting? How much did that help, do you think?
A keyword, tried to surf.
Tried to surf. Okay, keyword.
Oh, I played football. Like, I'm not a beach guy. Like, it was awesome. It was cool. I'd rather just sit on the beach and drink beer. No, it was all about the people. Even now, a lot of my colleagues, I'm like, this doesn't seem right, or hey, that person said this. It's all about, uh, you know, honing that listening to people, understanding their background, what they're really looking to do. So yeah, it overlapped in all of that, and I have to say, uh, you know, working night shift as a police officer is a different set of listening and that type of stuff, right? And then working as a bartender and listening to everyone's problems, their conversations, and I really enjoyed just hearing people's stories. And then getting into the business world is like, hey, what does this person really want? How do I really help them? How do we
Yeah.
help them? Am I the one to help them, or should someone else go there?
Love that, and it's kind of a testament to your skill that I see, like working as colleagues together, the SBDC. You're what I would call a super connector. There's only so many people that I would give that title to, and it's a testament to your ability to listen with the intent to connect or serve someone. And I think that creates the best business owners. I think it also creates the best sort of internal employees, folks that our job is literally to be a sort of aggregate or a connector, and you're amazing at doing that. And it's kind of fun to hear the other story about obviously law enforcement, right? When you say it, you have to be listening, you have to be tactical, you have to know sort of outcomes maybe before they even happen. So to apply that into the business world and intently into serving the people that you're working with, it's no wonder that you're good at sort of connect. Oh, you need to meet so and so, or you need to do this and that, and so yeah, I know very few. I could probably count all the super connectors on my hand, and you're definitely one of them. And I'm thankful for that. I know Ahmad's gonna be too. We're back at Vision Studio. You guys had a chance to connect before we started all this. You learned about sort of his skill and what he's doing for companies across Indiana and beyond. You were just in Texas, right? I don't know if you have your mic hooked up this time. Okay. Well, he was just in Texas doing, sharing his gift and talents out there. So I'm excited for this relationship because I know it's going to bring other folks, into his world. And just to have you as a friend is a fun thought for me, for him, and you.
No, I appreciate you guys having me up here and speaking through it. This is really cool.
Yeah, I'm loving it. My first question to you, so you went into law enforcement, you tried to serve, we're still kind of figuring that out. You got into business, and then the government. I get asked often, people know that I've done some federal contracts and done state contracts, and it's often, their ears perk up. They're like, well, what is this about? How did you do this? How do you go about doing it? And, now I'm fortunate I can connect people to you and other resources like Apex, etc. Maybe, kind of dive into this DoD world or this contracting world in general. How would I even go about getting started in it? If I'm Mr. Entrepreneur, Miss Entrepreneur watching this, and I've heard about it, I've seen, what's that movie, War Dogs, right? Everybody sort of thinks about that movie first. How do I go about doing it? Let's say if whether I'm a manufacturing company, a software company, just a business in general.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. Doing business with the federal government is taught in every business school across the country. The Federal Acquisition Regulation and Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation are an easy read. It's not 4 inches thick, I promise. There's not all sorts of minute, changes. It's easy. No, I joke. If it were easy, I wouldn't be here. But I do want to say, working with the Department of Defense and sidestepping there is different than DHS, than FBI, than the 3 letters, than the state, than the local. Because I get with that a lot. A lot of people say, hey, I'm trying to work with my local government. It's completely different stuff, right? Contracting is contracting, government's government, but essentially our niche, what I know, is Department of Defense. Where I try to know is Department of Defense. Anyone that tells you they know everything about it, run far away.
Sure.
So because you should be learning, it's massive, right? And it should be. When our national security is on the line, anyone shouldn't just be able to pick up and get into it.
Right.
Could it be less complicated? Yes. However, there are certain restrictions that are placed on it because of national security. And I always tell people this: working with the Department of Defense is not hard, it's complicated.
Right.
And really getting into it, and I'm a networking guy, I'm an extroverted person, so I'm going to be biased towards this. Some people are going to have this approach. Some people are going to have this approach. My approach is get out there and find a company, a group, etc., that has that similar to what we've taught you. Is like just come to an event,
Right.
just see what's there, because you're not going to just come out from the beginning and start selling missiles to the Navy, right?
Mm.
You know, a lot of these defense companies have these large prime contractors. Your top 15, you can pick them. They change every year. You know, they've been doing it. Some of them over 120 years.
Right.
Right. They were selling stuff in the Civil War and World War I and all that type of thing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So getting into it is, even if you're a large company, and I've worked with a lot of large companies that had just wanted to build out a federal arm. You know, hey, they're doing automotive. Hey, they're doing science. They're doing bio. Hey, we want to get into the DoD. Yeah, they have some more money than probably the 1 or 2 person startup.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's still the same process. You know, they may be able to hire more people more quickly, consultants, that type of stuff. But essentially, it's figuring out what are you selling, making, whatever, and what is your government customer wanting to buy.
And on that topic, I think a lot of people typically silo what the government buys into weapons, into ammo, into rockets, into things of, just that sort of specificity. Give a little bit of context to what the government buys.
I mean, it's everything. You know, right now, the DoD, or Office of Undersecretary of Defense, has 14 strategic focus areas that they are getting into. Normally, I can name them off, but I'm not, because I'm on here and I don't want to miss one. But you can. It's an easy Google. It's right on the website of the 14 areas that they are getting into. Now, that's technology, right? That's not including, napkins and paper cups and all that stuff. That's a little bit of a different world. I do heavily lean into those 14 areas because you do have to pick somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those 14 areas is where I lean into, and you can picture them. I'll name a couple: hypersonics, AIML, cyber, biotech, that type of thing. And they have them broken up in different areas. I can throw a link to it on there as well.
Sure, yeah, we can put that one in
Really, it's fun. But remember, each of those now funnel down into weapon systems need IT support. They all need these different types of support below it. So it's really finding that customer. And also, probably more importantly, is not trying to force your product, your service on a customer that's not buying what you don't need. Doesn't mean they don't like it. Doesn't mean, that they don't need it, but does it fit their line item? Does it fit their strategic focus areas?
Yeah, that's so good. Good to know that those 14 areas exist, and we can link to those. But I think that creates a little bit more of a target angle for someone. And what you're sharing, obviously, you want to meet those criterias, but first you need to know what those criterias are to, better sort of adapt your product or service or your pitch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So before I kind of stumbled into government contracting accidentally through hearing a conversation at a coffee shop. It was really interesting to me to discover that the government buys things like lawn mowing services,
Mm-hmm.
Roofing, building, right? I was a military guy. I would always see private companies come in and do XYZ work, whether they're repairing a runway or running fiber optics or you name it, right? And it's interesting to think about, like, we really, like, as the DoD, we're super reliant on great, capable companies, right? I mean, it's everything to find a qualified, great company at the lowest price, and
Best value.
there you go, best value, because that is a variable too, right? Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be the lowest price; it has to be the best quality,
Best value.
best value.
Price does have a factor, but what's past performance? What are the capabilities? That type of stuff too. The days of the $500 hammer, as people say in my world, are hopefully starting to fade away.
Got it. And that's the best value.
Best value.
Perfect.
And you still have to hit your rates.
So knowing that, like, as a company or as a contract service provider, like, what is my best value based on what they need is going to be super helpful.
Yep.
You mentioned events and sort of getting around some of the people in this space. Looking back, at least for me, like, the hardest part, step one, was like getting qualified, right? Going to Sam.gov and getting a cage code, learning some of those things. If I'm somebody, let's assume that somebody's watching this right now and they've they've already got some interest. What's step one for somebody to sort of get momentum going or get some movement going?
It really depends on what you want to do. How big is your interest, right? Sam.gov, it's free. Once again, it looks complicated. It's not that bad. And getting your cage code. If you want to get technical, those are my two opinions where go first. If you want to go talk to small business people, if you want to go talk to anyone that you think you could sell to, their first question as a new company, are you registered in Sam.gov and do you have a cage code? But that doesn't stop you from networking.
Right.
That doesn't stop you from, talking through it. You can still have those conversations. No one's going to say, well, I'm not talking to you because you're not registered in Sam.gov.
Sure.
They're going to be interested in what you bring to the table.
Totally. And let's assume, okay, so that's great to know. The next question that I would have is how do, where are these events and how do I get the most out of them?
Those are really good questions. Maybe I'll lean into, why Ding was created. So, because that's one of our kind of case studies that we did.
Ding. Can you explain that? What that?
Yeah. So the Ding is the Defense Innovation Networking Group. We're a nonprofit. I'm the executive director, board here based in Indiana, where we focus on being a funnel/filter for all the questions that you're asking. We're not necessarily going to help you with your cage code or your Sam.gov. Would we? Yes, but our whole goal is the DoD has all these great resources here in the Midwest. There's events, there's different groups, there's local nonprofits, there are regional groups that do this stuff. There are statewide, but no one is really bringing them all together. Inherently, as I said earlier in our conversation, getting into this world of DoD is it's not just it's not a realtor group where there's 1,000 realtors in a town of 5,000 people, right? While the DoD is large, it's still a pretty small and can be a little tight-knit of a party, no matter where you're at.
Sure.
Especially, hey, which door do I go in? Just the questions you ask. So Ding was created because we believe here in the Midwest we have all this manufacturing, and I'm going to quote my friend Jesse Lovin, who runs the Defense Entrepreneurs Forum, is executive director there, is here we have these, we treat informal networking as a weapons system, right? So it's powerful. It's no different than the technology running in our machines and our weapons, our ships, all that stuff, right? It is powerful and it's interconnected. So being able to have a resource to go to and say, this is where we're at, where do we go? Instead of waiting 3 weeks to maybe get a response from some auto inbox that's in some government building that no one's been in since 2012, is to be, okay, hey Tim, you're doing this, we don't do that, I know this person does this, but let me connect you to them. So treating it as kind of a whole stopgap domino, if you will, of boom, 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 here's the things that need to make, the connections we need to make. So it all and I saw that is people didn't know what to do. I heard all types of stuff, when we started doing these events, and we started the first chapter of the Defense Entrepreneurs Forum in Bloomington, Indiana, Greg and I and Steve, and oddly enough, my board, Aaron, in 2017, getting old, because we realized, we had tons of great groups, but nothing tying them all together. Everyone had their focus, but no one was kind of this overwatch of all of them. And that's kind of where we like to be is, hey, that's not what we do, but this person does that. This group does this. Let me get you a direct connection to that. It might be in Ohio. It might be in Indiana. It might be in Michigan. It might be in Austin, Texas.
Very good. And so for the entrepreneur or company, right, that, that maybe feels like, I think imposter syndrome is this, or like a predisposition is common. Like as an entrepreneur, what would you say to somebody that maybe is doing something, has been serving a customer base, has been building a product, but doesn't necessarily think that they're able or capable to do business with the government or shouldn't be at one of these events? What would you say to them?
Then you need to be at one of these events.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite people.
Yeah.
What
makes them your favorite?
Because it's fun to sit around with all my defense contractor friends and my government friends and my other DoD nonprofit friends, but that's not growing the base.
Sure.
We want the students that are interested in going into the DoD, not just engineers. We need business people in there too to lead these engineering companies, to lead these technology companies, not just scientists, not just engineers. It's not just chemists, biologists. It's we need more business students getting into the Department of Defense to be the CEOs of these companies. And I want the new what we call them dual use technologies, are companies that are doing something commercial, a service, an activity, a product that can be applied to the Department of Defense.
Yeah, those are interesting to hear about too, because I've heard you in multiple conversations, talking to a company that does one thing and then finding applicable ways that it could be valuable to the government, right?
Mm-hmm.
To the DoD. So I'm wondering, like, if I'm somebody that's like, man, I'd love to get into this network, I'd love to go to an event. How do I show up? What do I wear? Do I need to bring anything? How do I get the most? How do I max out at an event? In your opinion?
It all depends. There are some events that are on base that you're not going to get onto in some places. There are some that charge, and some Department of Defense events, what government or industry produced, can be pretty hefty. And I'd say, hey, maybe but for a reason, right? But really, I'd say is find, all of our Ding events are free. Not self-promoting, but that is a personal push of mine.
Yeah.
Because there's so many barriers to entry that I don't add one more, because people see $7. If I'm a student at Purdue, IU, whatever, Ivy Tech, ISU, USI, man, like, oh man, that's a beer, or I go to this thing. You know what I mean? So we do our events for free. Many of the groups around the state, Crane Regional Defense Group, you can come visit one for free for their event, and their focus is the Crane region. So I tell people, if you're interested in doing work at Crane, go visit their event. They're a membership-based organization, and they're fantastic people.
And from personal experience, I went to an event with you, and it was nice because I had a familiar face, and not just that, but somebody that was warmly introducing me to all these different people that you already kind of pre-thought in your head that I needed to meet and know. It was just super helpful, and just kind of break through that initial barrier and not feel as, kind of like the new kid at lunch, but just be directed into good conversations that have created new friendships and potential new opportunities, on the personal side of my own business, which is exciting. Just sort of breaking down those preconceived notion barriers that I had. So that's been awesome. I guess my other question would be, so there's other support organizations out there, right? You've got SBDC, you've got IEDC, right? Their personnel that's able to help people sort of direct them. Then you've got Apex, and to my understanding, Apex, also helps entrepreneurs or companies, right? Get, where is Ding working with? How is Ding really working with other support organizations to assist?
No, that's and as I said earlier, we looked at our capability gaps when we created Ding, which remind me, I should go back to the story for that of how that was created. You're gonna be shocked it's over beer. We looked back at the capability gaps and said, man, these organizations are all doing great stuff, but they're all doing it in their lane, siloed, as they should be. That's what they're supposed to be doing. No one had an organization that, like I said, kind of rallied them all. So with IEDC, ISBDC, is what's a resource if we come with a small business that's interested in doing work at Crane? Hey, Heath, talk to them, right? Or hey, we're interested in DoD. They usually send them to me. And same with Apex. We trade clients back and forth. Because I usually the Apex counselors, I think they're called advisors, I'm not sure, usually have a more broad government experience in federally speaking. FEMA, Bureau of Prisons, that type of stuff where I don't know, and I'll send people to them. And where I tell people is we really hit on the networking side. Okay, you've got your cage code, you've got your Sam.gov, you're kind of familiar with it. Okay, let's get you in front of some people. That's where Ding steps in. It's almost a handoff.
Yeah. I think that's so important. Like, people need that. I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. They get on YouTube or they get on the SBA, they figure out how to go through the motions of getting the cage code.
And you have to.
What is Sam.gov? But then the biggest struggle, at least in my experience, was like, well, how do I get connected? How do I prove my capability? what is a capability statement? What are they supposed to look like, right? And how do I really show this off to get an opportunity to, play ball, whether it's a subcontractor or the primary, what does this sort of process look like? And, I'm a huge advocate of Ding. And I guess that kind of leads to this next question, you know, having a Ding in Indiana, what do you think it's going to do for economic development? Like, because it's still early, right?
Yeah, we've been around since informally late 2023, or informally early Q1 2024.
Yeah, so cast a little vision on where you see the impact.
So where our whole goal is we don't focus on numbers. We track, because I'm a metrics guy. As I told you, I like metrics we can tie back to.
Mm-hmm.
All this stuff, every introduction, anything that we tied into, we like to track, because when I look at metrics and people are like, we did $1 billion of whatever, I'm like, how? Not bad. I'm just curious. And when someone asks about us, I want to be able to say, this is how we did this. And how I see us is a regional economic development group, right? And I say that regional as a Midwest. I want to be able to take companies that are working with Air Force Research Lab in Ohio and not pull them out of Ohio,
right,
by no means. But if we can get them in front of a crane customer and they expand a crane, that's now made our Midwest defense ecosystem even stronger. Now they've opened up another shop at Westgate. Now they're a member of a group, in Indiana. They're now hiring Indiana employees, right? And same, if we can take a Indiana company and they're manufacturing with our huge defense manufacturing base and get them to the Ground Vehicle Systems Center in Michigan, let's expand them, right? If they're in Bloomington, Indiana, and they have 50 people and they want a contract with the manufacturing with GVSC in Michigan, they're not picking up and leaving their crane work, but now they're expanding, and now they're hiring 20 people, 20 probably Michigan people there, right? So now this company's growing. So now we've gone AFRL to crane to GVSC, right? With the industry side. And then we bring in our academic partners. So now maybe, Purdue's working with University of Michigan, and we're working on, two nonprofits, or, hey, we got connected up there to this economic development group. And now someone comes to us, and it goes back to the earlier conversation, and they say, hey, I really want to sell this to Crane. Well, it may not be in their strategic focus area, but man, I met that economic development group back in Michigan because of this. I'm going to get you connected with them. That's what I see this system is, turning it into this non-divided state line, and looking at, instead of defense in Indiana, which is important, it just so happens to be Indiana's crossroads of America. We sit right in between it, right? We sit right between all the other states in the nuclear Midwest. And how do we not say, well, sorry, that stops at the Ohio line, not my problem? Because IEDC should be focusing on Indiana, right? Ohio Economic Development Group should be focusing on Ohio. Just like we talked about earlier, I'd like to see Ding assist them, so they're not spending their time not focusing on their metrics. Kick them over to us, and how do we grow into that? That's how I see it.
Yes, and assist, you're filling gaps and cross-pollinating.
Non-dilutive, not taking away from any organization. How do we help?
Enhancing it.
Yeah,
enhancing and kind of cross-pollinating between opportunities and connections. So it's truly a contracting hub, or a connections hub.
Absolutely.
To opportunity.
I see it as a big filter. That's what I see Ding as, a big filter.
For the longest time, I was thinking, even before I got into small business development work, I would walk downtown here in Howard County and just start thinking, like how does a community truly grow? How does an economy grow? And I started thinking, it's like, well, it's information. Not just information, like applied knowledge. Applied knowledge is power. Where do people get information? Well, nowadays, right, it's like technology has allowed us to do this. We're sharing information about a topic that maybe people have heard about. Maybe they haven't at all. And they might be right for something like this, or at least to dig in. It might completely change their life. But, as I've kind of followed that thought of how do you raise up, community and people in general, that is a community that's made up of people. it's really about opportunities. And when you look at the size and the numbers that you can generate from doing good work for the DoD or the state, that creates income, and income, to your point before, right? It can create jobs and create new infrastructure. And I'm really excited to connect you to other folks like throughout that need to know about what you're doing, what you're building, and what the results have been. And I think where they're going to continue to grow, because there should, I hope there's going to be a playbook for this for other people to sort of generate their own ding
Absolutely.
and sort of satellite ding,
Yeah,
satellite ding
we've been
zones.
talking about it. I told some people, like, let me build the Midwest first.
Yeah.
Because we are Ding Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to make sure we clarify this is, we work with companies in Los Angeles. We work with organizations all across the country, combatant commands all across the country. Because it once again goes to it. If we can take a company, and when we started, we had to label it somewhere, right?
Sure.
Is if your company is growing here in Kokomo, and like, Tim, there's a combatant command out in North Dakota that they need this,
Mm-hmm.
and you expand your company to North Dakota, not only growing your company, we're now growing another part of the national security base, right? Which ultimately makes the best technology for a warfighter. Mm-hmm. So that's why I like the nonprofit is, we have to keep our lights on, but we're not for profit where, the top dollar is a bottom line, or, that's why I like this nonprofit world.
And I love it too. What's the value proposition to a company? If I'm a company that you're connecting people to, what's the value prop there?
Working with the Department of Defense,
or just working with Ding in general.
We're really fun. We have a good time.
We have nice jackets.
Yeah, we have nice jackets. We make cool coins and cool swag.
That's true.
Really, and I think working with us is, you're going to get a pretty blunt approach. You know me, people know me. And some of the best conversations I have with companies are, you're not ready yet. Yep. I can introduce you to whoever you want, but I'm telling you, you're not ready yet. Or companies that are like, we have $10,000 and I give my salespeople 6 months to get a government contract. That is a recipe for failure.
Yeah.
And I have those conversations too. Hey, you're just not ready yet. Doesn't mean you're not ever going to be there. But we have to stage this up a little bit, right? And the value prop of working with the Department of Defense is, one, you're supporting your country. I think that's really cool. I've seen some of the, coolest technology, and met some of the neatest people that are doing it. I'm not going to get that. Even being a police officer, I don't want to pick on professions, so I'll pick on the one I was in. Seeing that type of stuff, I'm like, this is why. This is cool. Getting to see that your piece of equipment, or maybe you're never going to see it, but knowing your IT company is keeping the lights on aircraft carriers, right? It's like the offensive line. No one's ever going to know. It's not cool, but it's extremely integral to what's going on. Without that doesn't function, right? And secondly, the DoD, I tell people, is like your 401k. You don't put money in it one week, and pull it out a month later and expect a big return.
Right.
It has to be a long-term game for you. And that's I guess you wanted to put a financial. That's my opinion. Is as a financial, commercial contracts rise and fall. When you get a DoD contract, and there's all kinds of different types of contracts, but it's standard 5-year contract. As long as you perform on it, whether it's a subcontractor or a prime, which are two totally different worlds, that's 5 years of most likely steady income.
Right.
And during that time, you're learning it, you're getting your clearance, you're learning the ropes, you're hiring other people. You can hire your federal business development people, that's what they focus on, right? And now it's all about growth. So those are my two.
Yeah. And then for the company, like, companies that you're filtering, you're having those hard conversations, they're not really hard, they're loving, in my opinion, with folks that aren't really ready to do business with the government yet. You're sort of incubating them. And I think, like, for the customer side, right, people that you're connected to that are maybe in the DoD or companies in general, they sort of have reassurance that you're not going to make an introduction unless that person's ready, right?
Absolutely. So my reputation is our reputation, executive director, I'll take it on the chin. You know what I mean? It's our org.
Yeah.
It starts at the top. And, I'd like to think that people I make introductions to, they know that this company's been filtered, vetted, and we'll make a meaningful introduction. And we'll usually say, hey, I know you're not buying what they're selling. However, I do know you're connected to X command or X company. Would you please introduce them? Can we have a conversation to see where you can drive them into?
Yep.
I know this isn't what you do, but I know that you're very knowledgeable and also well connected in our ecosystem. Informal networks is a weapon system.
Yeah.
I know that I don't know all the people you do, but I know you two need to talk. And then all of a sudden it starts rolling.
Yep.
That's the value we try to bring to the people we introduce to.
Love that. And you're just one of the many folks on your board from Ding. Tell me a little bit about your board, how you picked them, and then who they are, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
If they're classified, we can keep them classified.
No, they're on the website. I trusted them.
Yeah.
I trusted them. Not to tell me what I want to hear. We built this thing out of nothing. And there are times that I need to have people that can say, hey, dial it in. Or, hey, guys, this is what I need to do. So we have Aaron Ramsey with Purdue School of Industrial Engineering.
I want to get Aaron on the show too, man.
I'm sure he'll come. Bringing him on for his knowledge of our huge manufacturing. So if someone comes to me and says, I'm really interested in manufacturing, I'm not a manufacturer. I'm not an industrial engineer. I've never worked in that field. It's about being humble and saying, I don't know. Talk to my board member. I know he's greatly connected. Steve Bryant for his knowledge of the uplands ecosystem, his ability to write on grants, running the ISBDC, the Cook Center for Entrepreneurship, which the Ivy Tech Foundation supported us in the early days of Ding, so I give them a shout.
They're great. I just met them recently.
Yeah,
great. They invited me in. They gave me a free bottle of water.
Yeah, there you go.
And some mints. What a deal.
Yeah, Greg Sapp, who has been in the crane ecosystem, starting out as a air guard and then technician, and then getting into small business. He hired me away and he taught me everything I know about where I'm sitting at today. We run and gun along a lot of many days and nights together with no budget. We did a Rose Holman career fair, and I have to tell this story with Greg. I do a Rose Holman career fair where we were recruiting engineers. I'm not an engineer, far from it. We didn't have any business cards, so we're handing out note paper with our company logo on it and slapping them on Rose Holman students with our contact information.
Just drawing your
I'm just yelling at these engineers, these Rose Holman engineers who are probably terrified of this dude. Just be like, hey, come here. What do you do? But the cool thing was we had this massive defense company beside us, and in the morning, they were just out the line. Everyone wanted to work for them, right? And by the end of the day, all those students were over at our booth because we were having fun.
Yeah.
And this guy comes over and he's like, man, why are they going to you guys? I'm like, well, first of all, I won't say what I thought, but second of all, because we're having a good time, and we delivered and that type of stuff, right? And then lastly, we have Nick Dara from up in Fort Wayne, Marine, works with Northeast Indiana Regional Partnership, and he's just the rock, right, of the group. Nick is just always there to support the Fort Wayne area, in my opinion, and I will say this out of my ignorance, completely underutilized. They have a fantastic defense and manufacturing base up there. And one of my personal goals is to bring that ecosystem and smash it together with wherever we can get it. And Nick is just a fantastic advocate of everyone up there. We can say it now. We have Kaylee Diamond on my DoD advisory committee, who supports us, everything DoD, no voting power, nothing like that. I have to make sure I cross all my T's with her. But she sits there and she's just our go-to, especially Crane, especially on the government side, because all of us are all industry. I've never worked on the other side, just supporting it. And then lastly is Virginia Caudell, who is our general counsel, who most importantly keeps us out of jail. I'm kind of only joking, but no, she is really taken head on into learning contracting, because one of the hardest parts of contracting or working in the DoD is reading your contracts. You know, I'm sure they teach it somewhere, probably around DC area. I don't know.
Sure.
But a lot of it is just OJT,
Yep.
you know. So she's really taken her legal expertise and just dove headfirst into learning the FAR, as I said, or Federal Acquisition Regulation, DFAR, Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation, to assist our small businesses that win contracts. And because winning a contract is one thing,
Sure.
executing it is a whole nother.
Right.
And then lastly, just all the people that have supported us along the way, that don't have a title, that don't care about recognition. They all know who they are. You know, our Defense Entrepreneurs Forum people, where we all got our start. You know, I didn't realize this was even a thing without them. So just everyone that has brought us in, taught us everything, spoken on our panels, flew up here on their own dime, you know, believed in it, and the other organizations that have taught us. You know, I can't think of many people I've reached out to that didn't respond immediately or didn't help us along the way.
Love that. What are there any events that are happening soon that we could talk about? Is
Yeah.
there anything going on that somebody could, if I'm somebody that's like, I definitely want to meet Heath, I'm very interested in doing government contracting, or just even connecting with him to network through him.
Yeah.
You listed some just awesome people, right? If somebody's interested, you know, what's something that they could get plugged into?
Well, all the people I named and the people I didn't are probably way better than me. My goal is to just get you to them. So next Tuesday is Crane's Connect to Mission. I think they do them quarterly. Kaylee, don't yell at me if I get that wrong, but I'm pretty sure. And then Ding is doing a happy hour in Bloomington the night before. Feel free to stop in, whoever wants to, from anywhere.
Yeah.
And we will do those in conjunction with those each quarter. We are finishing our road show. We will have the Purdue Road Show coming up. We just did our one at the Mill back in November. And we'll have the Fort Wayne Road Show coming up, as well as the Indiana Uplands Road Show sometime between now and June.
Very cool.
We're still
we
working
can
on
put
dates
those
for
in
those.
the description too, like
Yep,
the dates
as
and
the
all that.
Yep, we got
to
to
come out. We could.
Yep.
Yeah, share those to the folks that want to get involved or meet you. Or
and that's just the ones I know about. Check out Dayton. You have Indiana AFCEA.
AFCEA.
I don't even know what it stands for. They've been around forever. Miranda Panel, and that group is fantastic. They're mostly based out of the DFAS, Defense Finance Accounting Services area of Indianapolis. They're a membership organization, international organization. Dayton has an extremely strong AFCEA group. Indiana is growing, relatively new, again, a little bit older than Ding, but not much. And they are a fantastic group to get tagged into to really drive your network out.
AFCEA.
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 Yep. Having someone
Somebody
from
can
there on the
Google that.
show would really be awesome as well.
Yeah.
But they have their own events. Each ecosystem is going to have their own, their own Connect to Mission type stuff, right? If they're always going to do their own. Dayton Wright Brothers, Michigan, everywhere,
Yeah. So each base has their own different core missions. Is that what you're saying? So
Yep.
like Crane has 14, you said?
No. Office of Under Secretary of Defense has 14 strategic focus areas.
Got it.
I, not being on the government side, I couldn't, I know Cranes, but I don't want to get something wrong.
Sure.
But each Army, Navy,
Each has their own focuses.
Yeah, have their own focuses, have their own expertise. They may overlap, you know what I mean? But each installation or combatant command.
So if I'm thinking tactically as an entrepreneur and I'm wanting to get connected in my government sort of ecosystem, maybe one of the first things I'd do is, try my best at getting the Sam.gov account, getting the cage code, go through that process. Then I'd want to get plugged in, sort of get in the way of opportunity, at networking events, some of the ones you're mentioning. I'd want to go there with business cards. I'd want to, just build relationships, right? And have conversations. But then I think it'd be good to learn, depending on where somebody's at that's listening to this, to know what the strategic desires are and for the base or the sort of mission that's around them, right? Or where they want to.
I'll kind of say the opposite.
Yeah.
Is, a lot of people get SBA certified, women owned, minority owned, veteran owned,
Mm-hmm.
And
people ask, hey, what do I do with that now? Those are great, fantastic. But at the end of the day, it's the capabilities of you and your company.
Yep.
Right. is go find your large contractors in your area. Find the people already doing government work. Tag in. Hey, what can I do rather than you go hire this? If you're a large IT enterprise company and then they need someone to make widgets for something, it's probably more cost effective for them to bring you on as a subcontractor. I'm speaking broadly for the audience. There's always exceptions. But work with them and say, where can I tag in? Not this is what this is what I do. What are your capability gaps and how do I help? What can I do to come assist you?
That seems like an easier sort of play.
Because a lot of these large, your top, BGov does the top 200, Bloomberg government does the top 200 contractors every year. Go through that, dig that out. I'm pretty sure that you may have to sign up for a basic account or something to get the newsletter. But you'd be surprised at some of the names on there. Like, I didn't know that was a defense contractor. And they're connected, right? They may be, because a large prime contractor at Crane obviously has a large Navy portfolio. But chances are they're going to have an Army and an Air Force and, whatever else portfolio, systems, etc., all across the world and all across the country. And if they say, you know what, we don't do what you do, but our colleague out in Utah does. Let us get you connected with them.
Very cool.
That's what's cool.
So if somebody's wanting to connect with you, somebody's trying to reach you, whether in Indiana or abroad, what's the best way that somebody can find you or your company?
We have www.dingmidwest.org as our website. It's there. We keep it for a reason. I think we keep it up to date for the most part. You can check out a little bit of us. We have a great ecosystem map that we've created for the Midwest on there. I recommend hop on there, poke around to see we're all connected to. And we like to say that we're always at least a handshake away. Is no one that we are connected to or will introduce you to will ever be totally blind. I want to at least say, hey, if I introduce you to so-and-so at such and such installation, I know this. I may know the person. I may not know who they're getting you to, but I can at least give a warm handoff to you. Secondly, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm fairly active, I guess. That's a good way to do it. At least send me an initial message, and then I'll usually just give you my cell phone. But I'd like to think that most people can find me. And just reach out. Set up a time. Unless I'm in like proposal or grant blackout mode, I'm usually pretty good about answering email. Not that I just came out of that. So, but yeah, I will have a conversation with anyone that's interested.
Very cool. Well, thanks for coming on today. Look forward to our next meeting after this podcast.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
excited to see just as this continues to grow and the success stories continue to stack up over the years to come, as it starts to take shape. I'm super impressed at what you guys have put together. I'm living proof of the connections that happen just by somebody reaching out. So if you are watching this, please do consider reaching out to Heath. And thanks again, man.
No, thanks, Tim. I appreciate it. Yes, sir. Yep.